Yep, we can hear you.
Awesome, thank you.
And in Albany.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Chris and, okay. I think we're good to go, so.
Yeah,
Do you
I think
have
we
any-
can I don't have any
just
opening
go
remarks.
right-
We can
go right
just,
into it?
we'll shave time off the meetings
Okay.
without my remarks.
Okay.
Oh, I might have that. No, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Good morning. I note that Morris Peters, representing the Director of the Division of Budget, and Chris Curtis, representing the Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, are participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building, room 131 in Albany. Notice of these locations has been made public, and the public has the right to attend and observe the proceedings from any of these locations. Now I will ask for motions and seconds to call to order the June 27, 2024 board and committee meetings.
So moved.
Well, I will, ask for a motion and a second for AHC and AHT. So accepted, motion and a second. And I will now ask for individual votes from the AHC and HTFC board members. Ms. Wisniewskis?
Aye.
Mr. Peters?
Aye.
Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
Ms. McEwen?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
And Ms. Miller?
Aye.
I will ask for a motion and a second for the AHC and HTFC audit committees. And we will accept motion and a second, Mr. Curtis and Mr. Peters. I think that's you. And we will accept the previous votes of Mr. Curtis and Mr. Peters. I will ask for a motion and a second for the AHC and HTFC governance committees. And we will accept the votes of Mr. Curtis and Mr. Peters. We will use these votes as items are voted on throughout today's meeting unless board or committee members decide to vote differently or need to recuse themselves. The meetings of the boards and the audit and governance committees are officially open. Ruth Ann, do you have any?
Yeah, I won't do a president's report per se. I was just going to comment on a couple of things. We met 2 weeks ago, so folks already know that we have our new chair announced, and NC will be here at the July meetings, which we're going to do combined for the July meeting, right? So it will be hold the time. It will be, I assume it'll be a 9 to 12, potentially long agenda.
It could be.
Yeah.
I don't know what, yeah.
But that's great. So we'll sort of have our full comport there. For our part, we are doing a couple things. One, it's sort of lovely in the spring, summertime, that at least for me, but also for my team, we have been out a bit at events, which is great in Rochester and in Long Island. There was I need to send this to the board. There was also a article in the New York Times yesterday about a co-op that we specifically Dina Levy, worked on, where some folks who thought they bought apartments, in fact, the person took their down payments and left the country, and they were sort of left very unstable, and we got that building stabilized. It was really great to get a New York Times article about the work we're doing there. I will send that to all of you later today.
Building in Chinatown?
Yeah.
That's great.
So folks are, one of my team members was in DC yesterday. There's a lot of conferences going on. We are out on the road sort of talking about the governor's budget, about the legislative session, talking about the work that we do. I did a roundtable for a Chamber of Commerce in Oneonta yesterday. So it's a sort of a fun time of year where we are not doing state of the state or budget stuff, and are getting to, no offense, Morris, and are getting to be out and talking to lots of people, as well as implementing all the things that came out of the budget, which is great. So I'll end there. I'll probably give a more fuller report in July when we do all the combined meetings. Now we're going to begin with the audit committee agenda.
We are.
Okay. So item number 1 is the minutes of the audit committee meeting of AHC held on April 11th, 2024, shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from any of the members and directors. And item number 2 is approval of AHC's financial statements for the fiscal year ending 3/31/2024. And I think Sonia is going to come present on AHC's financial statements.
Good morning.
Morning.
So Danielle is
going to come. Well, she's supposed to be here now, but she's running a little late.
Our auditor from Ernst & Young.
Yes, so I'm just going to start with a few highlights. And I will speak again also when Danielle does get here. Okay, so just a few things for 2024. We just wrapped up our audit and we are going to be issuing our financial statements and filing in Paris today. And just talk about some highlights. Throughout the year, AHC remained active and thriving and continues to meet its goal of providing financial assistance to promote home ownership. In fiscal 2024, $40.5 million was approved as state appropriations to fund housing grants as compared to $36 million in fiscal 2023. This year, AHC approved $45.4 million in grant awards, and as of March 31st, cash held by AHC was $6.5 million. During the year, AHC drew down $19.4 million in funds for disbursement to housing grantees. The Buffalo East Home Ownership Program awards funds to AHC to disperse funds for emergency home repair to eligible applicants in the east side of the city of Buffalo. AHC received $5 million in BHIP funds last year and no funds this year. Fiscal 2024 housing grant expense amounted to $26.2 million, and AHC expended $5.4 million toward the BHIP program. And finally, net cash used in operating activities was $9.8 million. Any questions?
Nope, not for me. Do you, can we vote on this without Danielle coming, or
We can, or we can,
does it come again at the full?
it comes again to the full
Okay,
board.
all right.
So she could.
So we can
present
move on
the
this
full
and then
board
when we
get
get
instead
it,
of-
okay.
Yeah.
She's not really presenting. She just wanted to make a few comments regarding the audit and how it
Okay,
went.
then we can,
Okay.
we can do that at the board.
Okay.
So assuming the first and second, now before the AHC Audit Committee is a resolution transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
We're now going to move to the Audit Committee information item. Thank you, Sonia. There'll be no presentation of this item unless requested by the members. Item number 3 is the annual review of independent audit contracts with Ernst & Young. Anyone have any comments? Okay.
So there is no unfinished business for the AHC Audit Committee. I'll ask for motion and seconds to adjourn the AHC Audit Committee. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the AHC Audit Committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The meeting is adjourned. And the next Audit Committee meeting is scheduled for September 10th.
Great. Okay. Now we're going to do the Governance Committee. Item number 1 on the Governance Committee is the minutes of the AHC Governance Committee meeting held on April 11, 2024. These shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors. We will now go to the Governance Committee consent item, which is item number 2, a resolution recommending the approval for the continued retention of services provided by Inspira Financials and formerly Benefit Resource, Inc. for administration services of the agency's Qualified Transportation Expense Benefit Plan. And 2, contracts with Automatic Data Processing, ADP, for payroll processing services, an annual review of the contract with the Financial Integrity Resource Management, LLC, for actuarial services. It's a long one.
It is a long one. And there are a couple items here that many of you saw earlier in June with the HFA, Sunny May, MBBA, and TSFC meetings, which are back today because they also need the vote of AHC, and this is one of those items. So. Now before the AHC Governance Committee is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, since there's no unfinished business, we ask for motion and seconds to adjourn the AHC Governance Committee.
Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The meeting is adjourned. And the next governance committee meeting is also scheduled for September 10th.
Great. Now we're going to move to the board meetings. More fun stuff. And start with the presentation of the items for AHC. Item number 1, the minutes of the AHC meeting held on May 15th, 2024 shall be deemed approved absent corrections from the members. Item number 2, ooh, this is a good one, is resolution. Let me just pull this up for a second. It's a resolution appointing Will Martin as Senior Vice President and Counsel. Will, if you want to come up and sit, you are welcome to. Oh shoot, Lauren, where is?
If we go down here, do you want to? You're in the Housing Trust Fund Corporation. Do you want to?
What do I need to be in? AHC?
You need AHC.
All right.
It's actually down below.
Do we have to appoint Will 3 times or just twice?
Just twice. We're going to do both AHC and HTFC now.
Great. So I am delighted today. We did this last month at the meeting, but we didn't have a human sitting in the chair. So I'm delighted to be able to recommend for your consideration the appointment of Will Martin as our general counsel. Will comes to us from the New York State Green Bank, where he was the Director of Legal and Regulatory Affairs, working on transactions, operations, regulatory issues for the state's Clean Energy Investment Fund. Before that, he worked for almost 10 years at the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, where he oversaw an enormous amount of transactional affordable housing legal work there. Over and in the memo says he exceeded 138,000 units of housing in his tenure there, which is really an incredible number. He has incredible leadership skills. He managed a team of lawyers at HPD. Prior to that, he had a quick stint also at HTC, where I think he started his affordable housing.
A formative stint.
Formative stint, yes. Got hooked.
Years between HTC and HPD. Yeah.
So I am really excited and confident that Will make a great contribution to the work of the agency, and I recommend his appointment without reservation. And you can feel free to grill him and ask him whatever you would like. And Will, you can feel free to speak about yourself if you'd like as well.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank all of you for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. So.
Excited to have you.
It's great for the
Alex's
agency.
shoes are big to fill, but
Yes, it's a big role.
For sure.
And as I did last month, we will also thank Lauren for stepping in for the second time as acting general counsel, almost without even really asking this time, and she just gracefully jumped back in and received 10,000 emails a day about all manner of things that go on in the legal department. So thank you, Lauren, again.
Thank you. But now before the AHC and HTFC members for approval is a resolution that was transmitted in connection herewith. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. And if we could do AHC,
As well.
aye.
Okay, aye.
And HTFC.
Aye.
Great.
Double ayes, yes. The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we are now going to move to information items number 4 to 6 on the agenda. There's no presentation unless anyone would like one.
We skipped one.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so that's a good one, big one too.
Yes.
Sorry, now we're going to go to item number 3, which is a resolution approving compensation adjustments for senior vice presidents. You also saw some of this last month as well, but we are bringing to you a resolution. We'll approve the compensation adjustments for the senior officers, and this is for state fiscal year 2025. As a reminder, per the policies adopted by the governance committee, the salaries have to fall within a certain range, and all of the salaries that are proposed in the memo comply with that range. Also, as a reminder, board action is only required for senior officers and the president and CEO. Adjustments for the other management confidential employees are made at the same time, but they are reported on in the December meeting. They don't require any board action, only the senior officers and the president do. The increases that are being proposed are in compliance with the DOB bulletin, which was circulated last month, and we have reviewed these with our DOB colleagues. All of the senior vice presidents will receive a 3% adjustment, but have been excluded from performance advances. And in compliance with Executive Law 169, I, the Commissioner, have been excluded from the 3% general salary increases and the performance advances. Respectfully, I ask for you to approve all of these increases. Yes.
I will comment again, but I think 3% is insufficient given the amount of work done here.
Morris? Noted, right? Agreed. Agreed and noted.
Noted.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate that.
It's a sentiment that bears repeating, so I'll underscore.
Mhm.
But approve it
Thank
because
you.
it is something.
Better than
Thank
nothing.
you. Thank you.
So now before the AHC members for approval is a resolution that was transmitted in connection herewith. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the information items 4 to 6 on the agenda. There won't be a presentation unless you all would like one. Item number 4 is the review of the quarterly investment report as of April 30, 2024. Item 5 is the current agency procurements and contracts in the lobbying restricted period. And item 6 is review of the agency's quarterly procurement report for the period ending April 30, 2024. Any questions? Okay, we will now go to the consent items, number 7 to 12 on the agenda. The next 4 items, which is item 7 to 12, are all AHC items, all related to the approval of the yearly financial statements, the annual investment report, and the filing with Paris, the state's system. The financial statements were reviewed in detail at the audit committee meeting 10 minutes ago. These are all consent items with no discussion unless the board members so request.
And I think
Danielle
Danielle is here, so.
Oh, great. Danielle, do you want to, and Danielle will come up and give us some talking before we go through.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Apologies for my tardiness.
No, that's fine.
Good morning, great to see everybody again. Thank you. Yes, Danielle Hurlbert, Managing Director from EY, so leads the external audit team. So happy to be here again to present audit results, this time for the AHC agency. So we are in our final stages of audit and ready to issue the report by tomorrow to be in compliance with the Paris filing deadline. Happy to report that again this year for the agency we are issuing an unmodified opinion, so really a clean audit opinion. And I will just say, I know that the financial statements were included in your materials. Really no findings, issues, or material weaknesses of any kind that were noted during the audit to call out to the committee. So again, appreciate the agency's help throughout the audit process on this one as well as all the others throughout the year.
I wanted to thank you, Danielle, for you and your team and all of your hard work, and you're so accommodating. So thank you once again.
Absolutely. Yep.
Nothing better than people smiling, talking about audits.
Like
good audit.
this speaks highly of that AHC staff.
Yes, the AHC staff is incredible. I think Dominic Martello is on the phone. Kudos to Dom and his team for all the work they do and to the accounting team for all the work they do. So thank you. Any questions for Danielle? Anyone? Okay. Shall I run through the items?
Yes, let's
Okay.
identify and then we'll move them.
So let's bring for a vote item number 7, approval of AHC's annual Paris filing for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2024. The approval of AHC's annual procurement report and Paris filing thereof for fiscal year ending March 31, 2024. The approval of item number 9, approval of AHC's financial statements for the fiscal year ending 3/31/2024. And item number 10, approval of AHC's annual investment report for the fiscal year ending 3/31/24.
Now before the AHC members for approval are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with these 4 items. Assuming the firsts and seconds previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolutions adopted.
Great. Item number 11 is a resolution recommending the approval of a cyber insurance policy and an increase to the budget. Is this a presentation?
This is again, an item that was on the agenda earlier in June for HFA, and this is an extension of the cyber policy, right, and an increase or an allotment of amount to carry over the extended period. confirming I'm right about that, and the final policy should be back in July to the boards for approval.
Great.
So now before the AHC members for approval is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the firsts and seconds previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Now we're going to move to the AHC consent item, which is item number 12 on the agenda. And this is a resolution authorizing the award of grant funds for certain projects. And Dominic is here if anybody has any questions. Dominic, it looks like you mimeographed this, the materials in the board. Like, I don't know what happened to the copy.
Fax them.
You
You
fax
them
them,
and then
yes.
fax them.
We'll try to get that fixed for next month, but a ton of,
I loved it.
go ahead, Tom. You don't have, you're, I know,
Reality.
Yeah, it brought me back.
but do you want to just make a comment about the projects?
No, I was going to comment that I think the legal department handles the mailing.
That is true.
Okay.
So now before the AHC members for approval is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all voting in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
We will now move to the HTFC
Thank you.
and begin with the HTFC Audit Committee agenda. Item number 1 on HTFC is the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on May 15, 2024, which shall be deemed approved absent corrections from the members and directors. And item number 2 is approval of HTFC's annual independent audit for the fiscal year ending 3/31/2024. Stacy is going to present, and then we also have the our auditor, Jeremy Smith, up in Hampton as well. Hi, Stacy.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm here to just introduce Jeremy Smith. He's with our auditors, Lumsden and McCormick. I believe they're on their 3rd year of the 5-year contract with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy, who's going to present the audit findings, and I believe Lillian will be bringing up his presentation on the computers.
Oh, great.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I think it's actually loaded onto the computers if you.
Oh, it's loaded on, so it won't be.
I
Okay.
think that's right. I don't know whether she's raising it up separately, but
That's the PowerPoint.
I think the PowerPoint is also on the laptops.
Yeah.
If you wanna-
Here you go.
Oh,
There it
but
goes.
here we go. We've got it on the screen.
She's always got it.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of summarize some of the significant results. I'll kind of keep this short. I know you guys have a long meeting, so we'll just go right to number 1. But yeah, if there's anything I go through too quick, just let me know. Slide 1, this is kind of the various reports we issue part of the audit process. The main one is that top one, kind of what we're really hired to do. And basically what it states is your job is to ensure the financial statements are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our job as auditors and express an opinion on that, whether they are or not. We issued a clean, unmodified opinion, the best opinion we can issue, so good job. There is another paragraph in there. It's actually been there the last 5 audits. It relates to the 7 HUD audits from 2015 to 2019, where HUD kind of questioned some of these costs. It's tune of $752 million. I know we're still in the process working with HUD to try to resolve a lot of those, but yeah, that's nothing new. It's been out there for a while, but it's just alerting to any of the users. There's also a report that's not really part of this relating to compliance with investments with the public authorities. As part of the audit process, we do some compliance testing. Everything was fine, no issues there. We didn't have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, so there's no management letter. And then the communication with those in governance is on the next slide. And this basically is just a required communication to the board. It kind of shows some of the results. So as you can see, there was no disagreements. We had no audit findings, no issues. It talks about some of your significant accounting estimates. For example, your mortgage and interest receivables at gross are about $2.6 billion, but we have an allowance against all of it, so it knocks it down to about $3 million. So which is reasonable considering the potential significant amount of doubt on collecting those. There's also estimates in there regarding the pension system, which New York State has an actuary look over, as well as we hire one for our OPEB, our retiree health insurance. So we look at those estimates as well, make sure that they're reasonable, and they are. We had actually no adjustments, so great job, accounting staff, Stacy and Bonnie. And then also there's just a little mentioning of the auditors, the HUD audit report in there. On the next slide, there's just a couple announcements. New accounting pronouncements went into affecting. The good news is not too many of these are going to have any real number impacts. So 100 is next year. The only time that will really apply to us, because I highly doubt we'll have any error corrections, is when we have new accounting standards adopted. It's just requiring, it's more of a footnote, what needs to be included in the footnotes now. So it's just more words, clarifying things from previous standards. On page 4, 101 is the only one that might have a slight impact on us. It now requires us to accrue for the FICA taxes, so the 7.65% on that as well. Not pretty easy calculation, but we're actually won't have, some other organizations and governments will have some type of impact, but we actually accrue for 100% of the sick and vacation time, so we're already at the max amount. Other organizations might put a percentage on that, saying, hey, what's the chances this person actually retires and they're paid out those benefits? So they might say they've only been here a year, there's a 10% chance that ever gets paid out. So it's clarifying it. That standard is from 1992, so it's very old. It didn't include PTO. So it's just updating a lot of that, but we're actually on the more conservative side. We have about $3.2 million right now in vacation and sick pay. So we'll be pretty good, other than just, I think we'll just include the FICA taxes, but so no significant impact to our organization. 102 is another financial statement disclosure. We actually kind of include a footnote in there related to the BPCA admin fees, how much currently how significant it is to our operation revenue. If we lost that, the impact on that. And that's where this certain risk and disclosures is kind of going with. Another example might be if we have our collective bargaining agreements and or unions and we're running on expired contracts. You might have a disclosure in financial statements regarding that. You know, something like a school district teachers, you know, that'd be a pretty significant impact on the district. And then also another example would be, wouldn't apply to you guys, but taxes, property taxes. If you had a major corporation represented 50% of your total tax base, what would be the effect on that if that organization leaves? And it happens a lot. So it's just additional disclosure that's not really financial, but kind of lets the users know some of the other things that might be happening in the area. And then the last one actually came out a couple weeks ago in GASB 103. It's just updating a lot of the GASB 34, which is our government-wide financial statements. Clarify some things in MD&A. Once again, it's trying to limit what we got in there, but we're actually pretty good about it right now. We have the basic 5 categories, and it's moving some schedules around from the front of the statements to the back of the statement. So just presentation issues. So real no things that you guys need to worry about, but just want to let you know. So slide 5, we'll get into some numbers. So overall, if you look at cash investments, you combine the two, we're up about $34 million. If you look at the change in the total net position, we had a change of $32 million. So really our change, and we'll get into that more on the next slide, change in operations really are changing cash and investments, so that's good. The government's grants receivable, the accounts payable, the awards payable, they're all kind of correlated. It's a lot of timing issues at the end of the year, just depending on when bills come in and when some of these requests come in. So, we're down 17 million on grants receivable. That's actually more in line. If we look at 22, we're about 35 million. But once again, directly correlates with our awards payable. As you can see, that went down drastically as well. And they're usually kind of similar, but depending on the timing. Other assets, that includes our mortgage receivables and accrued interest. As I mentioned, at gross 2.6 billion, but net we're about a little over 3.2. There's a couple other things in there. The pension system, if you go down to that increased about $1.2 million. That's our ERS, our proportionate share. So this is actually always measures at 3/31/23. We're a year behind. The 3/31/24, the auditors are working through that right now, and that's will be issued in August. We never do that one because we'll be a little late here. So in 23, that was 91% funded, so that resulted in a liability. Prior year, it was 103% funded, so we actually had an asset in the books about $3 million. This year, liability about $8 million. Not too many assumptions changed. A lot of it's just market driven, depending on how the market is at that specific point in time. OPEB, that's our retiree health insurance. We pay 90% of our retiree health insurance. So that benefit increased. Once again, not any real assumption changes. The interest rates did go up a little bit. It's based off a 20-year municipal tax exempt rate. So it went up a little bit, and we'll talk about that. I think we all know interest rates have been going up, and it's worked out in our benefit too, and you'll see in the next slide. But also health insurance costs have been increasing. I know in our area, the last couple of years, they've been requesting 10% increases. So we're just drastically going to see that. So that numbers will probably keep going up over the next few years. And then we get down to net position. The restricted, that's mostly our federal and state grants. They're actually about $240 million is state. The other 242 is about is federal. So we'll kind of just, and then, those are all related to our grants that we'll talk about in the next slide. So slide 6, we'll kind of see the income and expense. Obviously, our largest revenue is our PBCA admin fees. So that went up $12 million. As we'll see in the next slide, we issued a lot more contracts. We get roughly 46% of that revenue. Once again, directly correlates in the professional service contracts with CGI, who we pay to kind of administer those. So they did more contracts as well. So that increased $7 million. Fees from other programs, that's a housing voucher program. Once again, more contracts, more fees. Then we see in other operating expenses, that expense went up as well. So the housing voucher went up about $11 million. Up in the fees from other federal programs, the expense went up about $9 million. Salaries and wages actually did go down. We were about down 10-ish employees, but that was offset by 3% increase in wages. Payroll taxes and other employee benefits, it's actually on a cash basis, it's about the same. We do have those actuarial calculations. So the pension expense went up because it's underfunded liability now. That's $1 million, and then 2.5 in the actuarial OPEB retiree health insurance expense. So not actual cash basis, but we are required to report it on since we got a full accrual financial statement. So payroll tax and other employee benefits are actually about equal. But when you get down to it, our operating income is very consistent to prior year, about 17 million. Prior year was 16 million. So good year again. We'll talk about the federal and state grants on the next slide. But once again, investment income, you can see just what the interest rates did. $18 million this year versus $6 million last year. I know we had more cash as well, but the interest rates have been holding up steady, so yeah, it's nice to see. So on slide 7, we can kind of see some of our significant grants and our federal grants. Obviously, we talked about the PBCA. That went up $134 million. We issued more contracts. That's the same as the expense. The Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery did go down. We're starting to wind down that program. So that went down about $72 million. As I mentioned before, the housing voucher program, we're up $150 million, more contracts. And then community development block grant program, most of that's increased due to the CBDG CV program. In 22, we only had about $1 million. 23, $27 million. Now we're up to $66 million. We finally got that program up and really going. And then the real big change why our total federal grants went down is the homeowners assistance fund that we had through ARPA. That's basically done now. In 22, we had $90 million, and now you see in 23, $400, and now we're down to about $50. Then if you go to the next slide, New York State grants. A lot of this is just based on what the state allocates us. So the first one, we got more monies. from the state in the budget. And then if you go down, there was a new affordable homeownership program, part of the governor's budget as well for the housing plan. And then Gozer Capital, that was less allocated in the state budget as well. And then a couple of these other grants, they just don't exist anymore, or they're one-time grants, or DRI that fluctuates all the time, just depending on which rounds. I know we got a new round coming up. So that's really where the change. A lot of these revenue expenses in the perfect world would equal each other, but just due to timing issues between the years, they don't, but that's really how it's supposed to work. So for the most part, yeah, they kind of were. So that's all I really had. I know I went through it quick, so. Any questions? Yeah.
Right. So at this time, I'm seeking approval of the audit, unless there are other questions.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation.
Yes, thank you. That was very thorough and it was great. Thank you for all the work. And Stacy, thank you to your team for all the work. I know it's a lot to, and Ted, I know it's a lot of work to produce these, so thank you to you and your team. And I can't.
Sarah.
Yep. Yeah, Sarah, you're
Sarah's-
gonna. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Hi.
Now before the HTFC Audit Committee is a resolution approving the HTFC Annual Independent Audit for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC Audit Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item number 3 is approval of the Audit Committee Annual Self-Evaluation.
And I will introduce this one. So the Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009 requires that the board and committees of every state and local public authority conduct an annual evaluation of its performance. The members of the Audit Committee have completed an annual review for the period commencing April 1, 2023 and ending March 31, 2024. This year's assessment shows a high degree of unanimity among committee members, with all committee members who responded agreeing or somewhat agreeing that the various criteria for which committee performance is judged are satisfied. The level of unanimity of committee member responses is a good indicator that the audit committee members are satisfied with the way their fellow members are approaching their task as audit committee members. And at this time, we are requesting that the audit committee approve the annual audit committee self-evaluation.
Now before the HTFC Audit Committee is a resolution approving the Audit Committee self-evaluation. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC Audit Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, so we're now going to go to the HTFC Governance Committee agenda, and item 1 is the minutes of the HTFC Governance Committee meeting, which was held on May 15th, 2024. They shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors. And item number 2 is approval of HTFC's annual procurement report and procurement and contract guidelines. And Lisa is going to present this.
Good morning. Hi. I'm here to present the HTFC's annual procurement report for fiscal year 2023, 2024. There was nothing out of the ordinary in this report. There is, though, a correction in the report to the MWBE participation goal. The materials had a participation goal of 23.75. It's actually 27.19. Better? Yep. And that's about all I have to say about the report. Are there any questions?
Okay, Sarah, let's do it.
Now before the HTFC Governance Committee is a resolution approving HTFC's annual procurement report and procurement and contract guidelines. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC Governance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 3 is approval of HTFC's annual property disposition report and property disposal guidelines. And Stacy, you're going to do this, right?
Correct. Good morning again, everybody. Today I'm here to present the annual property report to the board, as well as just presenting the guidelines that we currently have. We are not currently requesting any adjustments to those guidelines, so we're just presenting them as information, I guess, at this time. In the real property report at this time, this past fiscal year, we did not purchase any real property. I think this is one of the first years that has occurred. As you may be aware, we have been purchasing or have historically purchased property under the CDBG-DR disaster recovery funding. And we're in the process of disposing all of those properties. This past year, we were able to dispose 188 properties. Many of them were transferred to municipalities or to not-for-profit organizations for no value. Others we sold anywhere from $5,000 to roughly $16,000. At the end of the fiscal year, we were still holding 32 properties within our portfolio. However, in conversations with the AHC staff, we anticipate that those 32 should be off of our books before the end of this fiscal year. So hopefully this time next year, I'll be presenting a report that says we disposed of all 32 and we no longer have real property that HTFC owns and is responsible for. We also did not dispose of any real property valued at over $5,000 in the last fiscal year. I've provided you a list of all the properties that we sold, as well as the properties that we currently hold, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Any questions?
My only question is that the Staten Island properties, they're coastal, and the state bought them so that properties wouldn't be rebuilt there after Sandy. That's the
Yeah, it's like the blue belt or something, right?
Yeah.
Stacey, I think it's called, where they go back. And
I could not hear the question.
Oh, sorry. I was saying like when they, like in places at the Staten Island specifically, when the state and I think city take title, they take them back for like buffer
wetlands
and
yeah.
blue belts.
Wetlands and things like it. There were two different scenarios under which property was purchased through the storm recovery funds. One is the buyout program, which requires from the federal government that land remain vacant in perpetuity. So a lot of the properties on Staten Island were purchased under that program, and that land has to remain vacant in perpetuity. They can do minimal improvements. Say if you do a sports complex, you can build restrooms or pavilions, but that's it. It can't be used for long-term development of housing or commercial structures. The second program that they purchased property under was a what was it called? Acquisition program. Thank you, Amy. And in that scenario, they were properties that were purchased for post-storm fair market value, and those properties could be resold for development to either not-for-profits, other homeowners, private entities. And the caveat to that is they did have to redevelop those. There were certain reasons why. I think it was depending on what floodplain they were in, whether or not they were in a collected area. There were certain regulations that distinguish whether or not they would fall under the buyout or under the acquisition program.
Thank you.
Come back to us. So what was that?
The
acquisition needs to be redeveloped with resiliency.
Yeah. Okay.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Stacy. Sarah?
Yes, sir.
Now before the HTFC Governance Committee is a resolution approving HTFC's annual property disposition report and property disposal guidelines, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC Governance Committee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. We are now on, are we on item, are we here?
We are. We're back to, we're on item 4, self-evaluations again, but yes, for different for the board, the audit committee.
Gotcha. All right. So item number 4 is HTFC's annual board, audit committee, and governance committee self-evaluations.
So the Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009 requires that the board and committees of every state and local authority, public authority conduct an annual evaluation of its performance. The members of the Board, Audit Committee, and Governance Committee have completed an annual review for the period April 1, 2023 through March 31, 2024. This year's assessment shows a high degree of unanimity among board and committee members, with all members who responded agreeing or somewhat agreeing that the various criteria of which board and committee member performance is judged are satisfied. The level of unanimity of member responses is a good indicator that the board, audit committee, and governance committee members are satisfied with the way that their fellow members are approaching their tasks as board and committee members. And at this time, we are requesting that the governance committee approve the annual board, governance committee, and audit committee self-evaluations. Sarah.
Now before the HTFC Governance Committee is a resolution approving HTFC's annual board, audit committee, and governance committee self-evaluations. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC Governance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. We're now going to go to the HTFC board agenda. So item number 1 is the minutes of the HTFC meeting held on May 15th, 2024, which shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors. Item number 2 is approval of HTFC's annual independent audit. This item was presented at the audit committee meeting. Absent any additional questions from the members, we can move this to a vote. Great. Sarah?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's annual independent audit. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 3 is approval of HTFC's annual procurement report and procurement and contract guidelines. This item was also presented to the governance committee meeting. Absent any questions from members, we can move this to a vote as well. Sarah?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's annual procurement report and procurement and contract guidelines. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item number 4 is an approval of HTFC's annual property disposal report and property disposal guidelines. This item was also presented to the governance committee meeting, and absent any additional questions from the members, we will move this to a vote.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's annual property disposal report and property disposal guidelines. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 5 is approval of HTFC's annual report on investments and investment policy, and Stacy's going to present.
Good morning again, members of the board. I am here today to present to you the annual report on investments, part of which was included in our audit statements. I'm also presenting a copy of the policy. We have not made any changes, and I'm not recommending any changes since the last report. As mentioned by Jeremy, we had a significant increase in our investment interest as well as our cash account interest. This was due in large part to changes in interest rates that occurred over the last year, as well as our partnership with Tax and Finance, who manages our investments, and they made very good recommendations to us for making sure we made the best decisions on our investments. So at the end of the year, we are significantly higher on our investment investment and cash interest, and as well as our accrued interest. I have presented a listing of all of our cash accounts and the investment accounts in the board materials, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Great. Thank you, Stacy.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's annual report on investments and investment policy. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Are we on annual? Yes, we are. Okay. Item number 6, approval of HTFC's annual board and committee self-evaluation. This is Groundhog Day here.
This is for the board and As in the other, this is to comply with the Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009, and the members of the board governance committee have completed annual reviews for April 1, 2023 through March 31, 2024. As previously noted, there's a high level of unanimity with regard to the way fellow board members are approaching their tasks as board and committee members. I would just add that the question of whether the board sets clear and measurable performance goals that contribute to HTFC's mission elicited an even split among respondents on whether they agreed or somewhat agreed, and the question of whether the board has identified areas of most risk to the authority and works with management to implement risk mitigation strategies elicited 5 somewhat agree and 1 agreed responses. At this time, we're requesting that the board approve the annual board governance committee and audit committee self-evaluations. Sarah?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's annual board and committee self-evaluations. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 7 is an approval of the HTFC's annual report on operations and accomplishments. I'm a little biased, but I thought this was a good report.
Yes.
Lauren, do you want to
Yes.
present?
The Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009 requires HTFC to issue an annual report setting forth its operations and accomplishments. As detailed in the report, HTFC operates through broad offices of HCR, including the program offices for community and economic development, affordable housing preservation, single and multifamily affordable housing financing and development, and resilient homes and community development. HTFC's report on operations and accomplishments is included in the board materials, and it is respectfully requested that the board authorize the adoption and publication of this report. That has a lot of good
It does have a lot in
information
it. I would just make a couple notes. One is, while I sort of know this, when you read it, you just realize sort of how broad the touch is of the Housing Trust Fund Corporation. I mean, the sort of the breadth of the programs that it runs, I think, is really remarkable. And there's obviously an enormous number of staff who make that happen every year, and the dollars that go out the door that support so many different communities across the state, lots of them in sort of small ways that, but for these dollars, there wouldn't be investment in those communities. So it's sort of kudos to the HTFC team, all of them. And there's a lot of support folks that go into making what's on this paper happen also for, you know, what's another, I think, great report of accomplishments. Great, Sarah, should we?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's annual report on operations and accomplishments. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
The next item, item number 8, is the approval of the HTFC's mission statement performance report and the mission statement.
The Public Authorities Law also requires HTFC to have a mission statement expressing the purpose and goals of the authority. No amendments have been proposed to the mission statement this year. The mission statement and mission statement performance report are found in the board materials. At this time, we are seeking readoption of the mission statement and approval of the mission statement performance report.
I think I'm supposed to remember we did some revisions last year to this, so it's sort of somewhat unchanged after, I think, having a good series of changes last year. Okay, Sarah, should we do it?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution approving HTFC's mission statement performance report and mission statement. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Now we're going to talk about some buildings. All right, item number 9. Authorization of the fall 2023 multifamily awards, and I can see Brett, who's going to present. Hi, Brett.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. Okay. In March 2024, 29 awards were made pursuant to the fall 2023 9% RFP. Of a total of 59 applications received, 10 of those 29 projects are being presented today, pretty much for administrative ease. We'll break those up and present the balance at the next board meeting. For the board's approval of the various subsidy loan awards, as well as Downtown Revitalization Initiative, DRI, awards associated with 3 of the projects, which have been assigned thank you, assigned by DOS to Department of State to HCR to administer. So the project details, including maps and renderings, are in your board package. And I'll just be walking through the chart on the memo, kind of providing a brief summary of each of the 10 projects by Regional Economic Development Council. So the first in the Capital Region is Equity Residential Development. This is Clinton Square Studios, a 57-unit new construction project located in Albany, which includes 2 non-residential components, a condo for temporary housing for performers and crew members of the Capitol Repertory Theater, and an artist gallery and workspace to accommodate the project's artist preference. This project does include a DRI award as well as 8 project-based vouchers through HCR. The next project, and stop me along the way, otherwise I'll keep prattling on. The next project is Rupco's Cold Spring, which is a 56-unit new construction project, including 15 units of senior housing for those who are 55 years or older, located in the village of Tannersville, Greene County. The project consists of the demolition and redevelopment of the former Cold Spring Hotel, and is also one of the 3 DRI awardees. The next project is Regan Development Corporation's Colvin Avenue Commons. This is a 63-unit infill new construction project in Albany, including 11 units of supportive housing and 2 commercial spaces to be occupied by a child care provider. Moving to the Finger Lakes, SR Owner is the single-purpose entity created by Dakota Partners for the Southridge Landing project. This is a new construction of a 62-unit mixed-income project in the town of Henrietta, Monroe County. The project is located in a well-resourced area and includes 20 supportive housing units for individual survivors of domestic violence. Next is DePaul Properties True North Apartments. This is a 70-unit integrated supportive housing and mixed-use project to be developed on 3 separate proximate sites located in the city of Rochester. The project includes 8,700 square feet for an outpatient wellness clinic to be operated by FLACRA, with mental health and substance abuse services available to the community. 35 of those units will be supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals and families, as well as 7 of those units targeting ESHI-eligible seniors. The next in Finger Lakes is Baldwin Real Estate Development Corporation, Creekview Apartments 2. This involves new construction of 72 apartments and 9 2-story walk-up buildings in the town of Canandaigua, Ontario County, on vacant land adjacent to the previously developed phase. This project is a Buildings of Excellence awardee through NYSERDA, which enables them to provide on-site solar, geothermal heating and cooling, and it meets the Passive House design standard. Moving to Mid-Hudson region, the Affordable Housing Conservancy, working with Rockaville Development, is presenting the Harmony Hall Senior Housing Project, a 51-unit senior project for 62-plus individuals located in the village of New Paltz, Ulster County. It also includes 8 project-based vouchers through HCR, and all these PBVs were previously approved by the board, by the way. The next project is Kearney Realty and Development Group, working with Housing Action Council on their Reservoir Place project. This is a 75-unit mixed-income, well-resourced area project in the town of Carmel in Putnam County, consisting of construction of 5 buildings on vacant land. It's actually adjacent to Kearney's project called the Hamlet at Carmel, which is currently in construction. Then moving to Western New York, STEL, the Southern Tier for Environments for Living, working with Park Grove Development on their Silver Creek Senior Housing Project. It's the demolition of a dilapidated former school and new construction of a 54-unit senior housing project, 62-plus in the village of Silver Creek, Chautauqua County. It includes 15 units of supportive housing for seniors, for homeless seniors rather, and as well as 8 project-based vouchers and a Restore New York grant through ESD. Lastly is Stewart Alexander and Associates, their Plater Gardens at the Market project, a 73-unit scattered site urban infill project on vacant sites owned by the city of Buffalo. There will be 11 buildings in various configurations, and 37 of those units will be supportive housing for young adults and youth aging out of foster care, and this project is the third of the 3 DRI projects. So I know that was rapid fire, but let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Brett. Great.
Remember our CPC finance,
I believe we need to do, if you're recusing on, I think we need to note that have a unanimous vote and include your vote on these items in order to Sarah, right?
Yep. Amy, can you
Yep.
give me my binder?
Yeah.
And I can read the language, Lauren.
Do you, if you have it available, yes.
Yep. So Sadie McCune's vote is required to meet the affirmative vote, and the member director is voting with the majority. All their members directors are voting unanimously. Without reconstitution, the member director would be unable to meet the affirmative vote requirement, and action by the agencies is required before such time as the member director might change. Because all those conditions are satisfied, we can count Ms. McCune's vote for quorum and voting.
Great, thank you.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing fall 2023 multifamily awards. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution is adopted.
Great. Item number 10 is the authorization of a Downtown Revitalization Initiative, DRI award for, I don't know how you say it, MCROC Associates LLC.
I think all the above are just fine. A little bit of background on this. In March 2024, Home Leasing was awarded a standalone Community Investment Fund award through HCR's Open Window to redevelop 4 contiguous distressed historic commercial buildings in downtown Rochester into a mixed-use building with ground floor commercial and affordable residential units above. The SIF funds would only be applied toward the commercial aspect of the project. However, since that time, it was determined that HCR would also need to administer this sub-allocated DRI award on behalf of ESD toward the residential component of the project, the 11 units on the second floor. This is a prominent site, a very high priority for the city of Rochester. Not only is SIF and DRI involved, but Greater Rochester Housing Partnership, City of Rochester, federal and state historic tax credits. So the commercial space will be marketed to attract locally owned and minority and women-owned businesses, while the 11 units funded in part by this DRI award will be regulated by the City of Rochester. So the board's approval is requested for the $4.0 million sub-allocated DRI award for this project known as Harper's Corner.
Thank you.
Now before the HTFC, any questions?
I'm also
Recuse? Okay, Sadie's going to recuse here.
And we, I think, need to go through the same process because we don't have.
So Ms. McCune's vote is required to meet the affirmative vote, and Ms. McCune is voting with the majority. All other members directors are voting unanimously. Without reconstitution, the member directorship would be unable to meet the affirmative vote requirement, and action by HTFC is required before such time as the member directorship might change. With all those conditions being met, we can move to a vote. Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a Downtown Revitalization Initiative Award for MCROC Associates LLC. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 11 is the authorization of new construction program and supportive housing opportunity program awards, and Brett's going to present these two.
Hi again. So these 3 projects received Federal Housing Trust Fund awards pursuant to the Fall 22 9% multifamily RFP and were approved by the board in August of 2023. Federal Housing Trust Fund, or FHTF, has very strict guidelines around deadlines around the commitment and expenditure of their funds. And with the approaching September 2024 deadline for commitment, we're concerned that these 3 projects that have experienced some delays in closing on construction financing would not be able to meet that deadline. And so we're proposing to essentially substitute other subsidy sources for the Federal Housing Trust Funds and to ensure that the FHTF funds would not be lost. They're being essentially transferred to a HFA project that is expected to close imminently, to meeting the deadline, and would be supplanting an equivalent amount of HCR subsidy sources in that project. So I'll just go through the 3 projects that we're requesting the board's approval to essentially supplement or supplant the FHTF funds for. The first is Alegria North project by DNF Development in Suffolk County. We're requesting to increase their existing shop award by $1.1 million in lieu of the FHTF Visum's Stately Apartments in Tompkins County, we're requesting to replace the FHTF award with a $2.9 million SHOP award. And Housing Vision's Oval Wood Dish project in Franklin County, we're requesting an award of new construction program funds in lieu of the FHTF funds in the amount of $1.4 million.
Thanks, Brett. And the projects that are going to get the FHTF award, those have to come to the board, the swapping out, do they have to come to the board also?
I believe the FHTF that I believe that the project that we're dumping the FHTF funds into that will close will be presented by Russell because it's an HFA project. I'm not quite sure when that's occurring.
Okay,
And the
great.
requirements of both sources are the same. So we're not changing this product, the projects by swapping out the money. They remain the same.
That's a great question. Yeah, we don't anticipate any changes, impacts to, actually, in one case, there's a minor interest rate or interest adjustment, additional interest that's less than what they had indicated at the application, so the impact is marginal.
But
programmatically, not, yeah, I think wondering like the affordability stays the same, the AMI serve, the households.
The
Absolutely.
population served, all of that. Okay, all right. It's interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing new construction program and supportive housing opportunity program awards. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 12 is an authorization of a home ARP award for Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. and Berkshire Enterprise.
Good morning, everyone. Doing a bit of a Madeline impersonation today. So the New York State Home American Rescue Plan program, or HOME ARP, is a special HUD allocation of just under $80 million in federal funding to reduce homelessness and increase housing stability. The program is designed to create and preserve rental housing or non-congregate shelters and enhance supportive services for certain qualifying populations, as well as build capacity of nonprofit groups who serve these populations. Project applications were solicited via an RFP that was issued in November of 2023. The first 4 projects, I believe, were approved in March of this year, and today we're recommending a 5th project. This is in Syracuse. It's known as Kirkwood Homes. It's proposed by Housing Visions, an affordable housing developer that's well known to the agency. They're requesting just over $1.2 million in home ARP funds for the new construction of 6 3-bedroom units of permanent supportive housing targeting families at 30% AMI and at risk of homelessness. The units will be housed in 3 duplexes on Furman Street and West Kennedy Street in the Brighton neighborhood. Of the $1.2 million award, just over $900,000 will be used on development costs, and $300,000 will fund supportive services. The project is leveraging an additional $2.3 million investment from Onondaga County, including a very large award from the county's local home ARP allocation. This project will also benefit from an ESHI award. So the Kirkwood Homes will provide needed supportive family housing in the area, and we're pleased to recommend it for approval. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Great. There's no questions, Sarah. Let's do it.
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a home ARP award for Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item 13 is going to be an authorization of the Small Rental Development Initiative, sometimes called SRDI, program awards, and Burke is going to do these as well.
Yep. This recommendation for SRDI funding reflects available funds of $7 million from fiscal year 2024 and just over $1 million that was remaining from fiscal year 2023. It was made available via an RFA issued in January of this year. The RFA invited applications from not-for-profit housing organizations to preserve and create high-quality multifamily projects that are smaller, hence the name, between 4 and 20 units, and generally affordable at 80% AMI or below. 13 applications were received, and the top 7 scoring projects being presented today reflect funding totaling just under the 8 million that was available. These projects will result in the preservation of 36 units and the new construction of 16 units. So I think Madeline included more detail on each of the 7 in the board memo, so I'll just go through these quickly. First, we're recommending home headquarters for an award of just over $960,000 for the rehab of 5 vacant units across 3 properties in Syracuse's Southside neighborhood. Next, we recommend Hudson River Housing for an award of just over $1.3 million. This will preserve an older tax credit project of 8 units and 4 attached row houses in the city of Poughkeepsie. Third, we have an award of $870,000 for the Clayton Improvement Association for the rehab of 4 vacant units in a mixed-use building in Lafargeville up in the North Country. Fourth, heading downstate to Brooklyn, we're recommending just over $1.2 million in funding for the Fifth Avenue Committee, who will renovate and preserve 6 existing units in the gentrifying Greenwood neighborhood. In Westchester, up to Westchester, an award of $2 million to the Housing Action Council will support the construction of 12 new units in White Plains, affordable at 65% AMI. Next, the MARC project in rural Arkville in Delaware County will use just over $724,000 in funding to rehab and preserve 8 units serving seniors in a mixed-use property. And then finally, Wildwood Programs will use just under $858,000 in CERTI funds to support capital improvements to a 9-unit supportive residential building that is supported by OPWDD. So these projects represent a nice variety of urban and rural communities, as well as a blend of new construction, preservation, and some vacant rehab, and we're pleased to recommend these for CERTI awards.
Thank you. I don't think we've ever done anything in Arkville. I had to look up where that was. I had not heard of Arkville.
It's great. I love it. I go through Arkville all the time.
You do?
Yeah, exactly. And it's an area that with a dramatic shortage of workforce housing.
Oh, really?
Especially for the ski resorts and a lot of the other things that are going. Plus, that area just got 10 million in DRI funds on the other side, so they're actually looking to do more of that work anyways.
Yeah, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate that the state supports small projects. Really, really hard to do, and a lot of these are preservation of existing deals, and so I just very, very appreciative. The big projects get a lot of attention, but the small ones are really important in communities like these. So
this program is great because it was the idea came from a Office of Community Renewal staff person thought of it and sort of started it, and then and then it was successful, and now the legislature also funds it. It's a great program.
Great program.
It's a great bowling alley in Arkville, actually.
But we don't fund that.
You're doing your best Ken Adams. I like it.
Thank you, Burke.
All right. Great. Sarah, should we do it?
Yep. Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing small rental development initiative program awards. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 14 is an authorization of amendments to the CDBG CV awards, and Crystal's going to present.
Good morning. This month, we are recommending award increases for 5 existing CDBG CARES projects. We have a balance of uncommitted funds, and we'd like to commit these resources to 5 grantees that have been successfully completing projects. They include community counseling and mediation in Brooklyn, the Food Bank of Central New York, Rebuilding Together NYC, United Cerebral Palsy Association, and Unity House. I'll just highlight these are all very successful users of the CV fund, so it's very nice to have this opportunity to allow them to expand their services. Rebuilding Together NYC, for example, has a small DOL grant for an apprenticeship program, and they stood it up with that funding, but then they were able to take on a huge number of new participants for apprentices in construction trades, so it's been a huge success. And then the United Cerebral Palsy Association has purchased vans and kind of created a whole transportation system for their user base. It's wonderful. So we're requesting approval to amend these 5 existing grant agreements and award an additional $2,058,114 to the 5 non-for-profit subrecipients. Full details are in the memo and briefing sheets, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the members.
Thank you. These are great. Great. All right, Sarah, should we do it?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing amendments to CDBG CV awards, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item 15 is an authorization of CDBG Economic Development Program Awards. Crystal?
Thank you. OCR is requesting approval to make 4 new CDBG Economic Development Program Awards. With board approval, we will award a total of $713,000 among 4 awardees, including the City of Oneonta, the Town of Harrietstown, the Town of Tupper Lake, and the Village of Schoharie. This funding will support 3 new local microenterprise assistance programs and the expansion of a manufacturing business. Full details are in the memo and briefing sheets, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have.
These look great.
Okay. Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing CDBG Economic Development Program Awards, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Now we are going to go to item number 16, which is an authorization of Land Bank Initiative Awards. And still Crystal.
More than $100 million has been allocated in the last 3 budgets to support the services and expenses of land banks. We have offered 2 phases of funding for existing land banks, including operational support in the first phase and funding for acquisition and capital activities in a second phase. Approximately $38 million has been committed to date, and we want to allow the land banks that are successfully completing projects to access more funding to keep their work going. We have received requests for additional funds from 3 land banks, and this month we are requesting board approval to award an additional just over $1.8 million among Buffalo Erie Niagara Land Improvement Corporation, the Greater Syracuse Land Bank, and the Wayne County Land Bank Corporation. With board approval, we will amend the existing grant agreements and allow these land banks to commit funds locally for additional projects. In addition to these 3 increases, I'll note that the Columbia County Land Bank has been approved as the 29th land bank in the state. This new land bank has applied to access the funding that was made available for general services and expenses of the land banks. For this one, we are seeking approval to award and enter into a grant agreement of up to $300,000. Each of the other existing land banks have this money as like a renewable 3-year contract to support their staff costs mostly. So the full details are in the memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions on these.
Great. Thank you. Love our land banks. There's no questions. Sarah, you want to do it?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing Land Bank Initiative Awards, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Now we're going to go to item number 17, which is authorization of Neighborhood and Rural Preservation Program Awards.
Thank you. Just over $25 million was included in the budget for the preservation programs. This is $17.6 million for the neighborhood preservation program, mostly in our urban communities, and $7.5 for the rural preservation program. This is an annual program that's been funded for decades that provides administrative funding to support a large network of housing and community development non-for-profits throughout the state, and they're known through this program as the Rural and Neighborhood Preservation Companies. We work with these companies on all of our other programs, all of our other grant sources. They're an essential piece of our work in supporting the capacity of local governments that may not have staff and capacity to deliver all of our grant programs. I'll also note the project that Burke just mentioned, the CERTI award to the MARC project. That's a great example of this, where many of the communities in Delaware County would be unlikely to have the development capacity and expertise to run a program like that, and they've been a very successful RPC in the Delaware County and Catskills area delivering projects of all types. One of our best.
That's great.
So we are requesting board approval to award these funds and enter into grant agreements with up to 60 RPCs and 131 NPCs. Full details are in the memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Great, thanks. Sarah, should we do it?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing neighborhood and rural preservation program awards, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great, thank you. Item 18 is an authorization of a contract with CVR Associates, and we're going to switch locations, I think, and go to Syracuse and hear from Dan.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Dan.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, so this is for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. As you may remember, we switched technology platforms in the fall and moved from an in-house system to the new Emphasis Elite system. The former system was actually supplemented by a number of CVR products, most of which we've stopped using. But the program staff in New York City wish to continue using CVR SharePoint tool as it currently provides some supplements for document processing and process flow. So it's a small contract, relatively speaking, and we're looking to authorize it for 2 years for $110,000.
Great, thank you. Dan, any questions?
Just wonder how the new system is working, because I remember that conversation.
Yeah, Dan, you want to talk about how the new system's working?
Sure. So we've been using it for about 6 months now. We did a supplemental training this spring to complement the one we did last summer. It's always easier if the groups get to use the product and then train because they know what questions to ask. We recently cycled off Hypercare and are now managing help desk tickets ourselves with the vendor, which is a good sign because the LAs have stopped calling as much as they were before and I think are getting used to the system. We're now working towards opening the applicant and participant portals. These will be the more public-facing parts of the system, and we're hoping to open them up by the end of the year.
Great. So as expected then. Great.
Yeah, for the most part.
A lot of
To the extent that any technology project can go as planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. Yes, and kudos to Dan and his team for it's not easy to do technology projects when that's not your core focus, and to do it in addition to the other work. And this was a long process, right, Dan?
We're having high hopes.
Several years.
Yeah, it's great though.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Sarah, should we do it?
Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a contract with CVR Associates, Inc., assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great, and now we have item number 19, which is an authorization of an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with Solar One, and Amy Chan is going, here she comes, is going to present this one.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner and board members. So the item before you is a request to amend the RHC's subrecipient agreement with Solar One by $300,511.39 to a total of not to exceed $5,599,257.67, and to extend the term by 1 year through September 30th, 2025. This subrecipient agreement with Solar One is through RHC's Community Reconstruction and Infrastructure Program, and we are funding Solar One to install solar power and battery backup at 11 community facilities throughout New York City. The additional capital that is needed for this amendment increase is primarily due to redesign of 2 of the projects and to ensure that there's full wage compliance for all 11 of the projects. Construction has already been underway for the 11 projects. They are slated to be completed by the end of this year and for the projects to be closed out by September of next year. So we're asking for the board's approval for the amendment.
This is great, right? You sort of touched on this, but the places where we're doing this are libraries and volunteer ambulance and.
So it's community solar.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And the backup, the batteries are, it works? Technology?
I would assume, I would hope so, and when they're completed, we will know for sure.
No, it's emerging, so I think it's important to keep trying and keep investing in it, because that's how we get better, but, and it is great to see the community solar, because most small buildings in the neighborhoods can't. benefit directly themselves, so.
We did, I think when the Coney Island one was installed, they did an event, so I actually went out there and up on the roof, and they did a nice like event, we were all looking at the battery, it's this big thing, open, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it was great.
It's a question if these become actually revenue generating, like hot days like this, if it's actually selling, like if you're using the electricity not just as a backup, but actually as a revenue generating, selling it back to the grid as a way to sort of create revenue for these facilities as well, these community facilities.
Yeah.
You mean for the community solar itself?
Well, if it's
For the library.
for the
It's not
library, if
library.
it's like it's taking in electricity, it's not using it, but
Oh,
it
I
can,
see.
like when everyone's running their air conditioner, it can actually sell it back to the grid and make money for the library. And it's a question
Right.
if they're like monetizing the battery storage at all.
I'm not sure, but I would be happy to take that back and we should propose that.
They own it,
Good question.
I don't know who
or they
owns it.
leasing it?
I don't know
So-
who owns it or leases
Depends on
it.
who
Yeah,
owns
it's
the
Owned or
electricity
leased.
or
No, the solar.
so, yeah.
Sometimes the library might own it, but sometimes they might lease it, and if it's a lease, they might not get the revenue, but anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we're in a rabbit hole.
So-
Sorry,
No,
but this is great.
It's good to see the resilience play on a lot of the stuff. This is great.
Yeah, it's good to see
the
small
battery.
solar projects.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Sarah, should we do it?
Now, before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with Solar One, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Item number 20 is a authorization of an extension of the contract with K2 Intelligence, and Amy's going to do this. Hi, Amy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Zamanek. I'm the head of legal for HTFC and DHCR Transactional. I'm here today to ask for an extension of time for the K2 Intelligence contract. One time we had several vendors under this contract, or contractors, I should say. We are down to one, and he is providing essential services to my unit to wrap up some litigation transfer for the reversion process under the previously referenced acquisitions program. We've lost several attorneys in the last few weeks, and keeping him on for another 6 months will help us keep things moving along and not lose any time, and we're hoping to have everything wrapped up with him in the next 6 months, and therefore we asked for that extension. There is no price increase on this contract extension.
Great. Okay. Any questions? Great. Sarah, let's do it.
Now, before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing extension of the contract with K2 Intelligence LLC, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. The remainder of the agenda items are informational. There'll be no presentation unless requested by the members. They are item number 21, review of the SECRA concur actions. Item 22, review of the SECRA type 2 actions. Item 23, quarterly review of the Climate Friendly Homes Fund. Item 24, annual review of the HTFC Governance Committee Charter. Item 25, annual review of the HTFC Audit Committee Charter. Item 26, annual review of the contract with FedCap Rehabilitation Services. Item 27, review of the current agency procurements and contracts in the lobbying restricted period. If there's no questions, there being no further business for HTFC board, Lauren will now ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the HTFC meeting. Right? Are you going to do that?
I will do that.
Okay.
And I'm also going to ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the HTFC Audit and Governance Committee meetings while we're doing this. So assuming the first and second previously entered for AHC, HTFC, and the HTFC Audit and Governance Committee meetings, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the meetings are adjourned. And our next board meetings for AHC and HTFC are scheduled for Thursday, July 24th.
Is that right?
July 24th. It's Tuesday, July 24th.
That's what I thought. Okay.
It's not Thursday. It's
not
Tuesday,
Thursday.
July 24th. Wednesday. Okay. Do we have
Wednesday,
any other
July
days?
24th. Yes, just not Thursday. We had to move from Thursday to Wednesday.
And is there not a meeting in August? Is that
And there's
correct?
no meeting in August. If that hasn't get pulled off the calendar, we will make sure that happens today. And we will be back in September. And we moved the September meeting, I believe, is September 10th, which is a Tuesday. So we'll meet on Thursday in July, on Wednesday. Thursday in June, Wednesday in July, and Tuesday in September, just to keep
I don't know if I can
Just keep us guessing.
Yes, there's other things
I
are
may
getting
show up
in our
on the
way.
wrong day.
Yes, I hope not. We'll remind everybody. Make sure the calendar's updated and all that.
Keep track of
Yes, it's
some of
very
these
chilly.
small programs.
Freezing. So you're trying
Thanks,
to.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris. Thanks,
Thank you
Morris.
for joining us, Chris.
How do you keep track of so many small programs? That always amazes me.
Have a great staff. That's actually the answer to any question you could ask me. It's basically, I have a